Welcome to WGLT Election 2020 coverage. Throughout the campaign season, we're conducting interviews and forums with the candidates in various races. Today, we talk to the people running for County Board District 3, an area that serves the western part of McLean County and portions of West and South Bloomington. The candidates are Democrat R.J. McCracken and Libertarian Derrick Evans. Incumbent Republican George Wendt tells WGLT his schedule is too uncertain to participate. WGLT has asked him to name a time for a separate interview. Videos of these interviews will be online as well. The candidates will have a 2-minute opening statement and equal time to answer questions. We will start with Derrick Evans, who won the random selection. 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, my name is Derrick Evans. I'm the Libertarian candidate for McLean County District 3. I have lived in and around the Bloomington area now for the last 8 years. During that time, I've worked for a Fortune 100 company, servicing healthcare and hospitals around the area. I've been very involved with the things related to COVID from the private sector. In that time, I earned my master's degree in project management. I met my wife of now 5 years. We just had our anniversary. We have our 2 sons, Cooper and Hudson. I decided to run for county board to help out where I can, to give back to the community, and to show that libertarians can help and govern the way that we that aligns with our philosophy. A lot of people oftentimes, when it comes to third party, will say, we don't see you on the national stage because we also don't see you locally. Well, I'm hoping to change that. So, and otherwise, I would hope that you give us your vote on November 3rd. So,
all righty. Thank you, sir. And 2 minutes to you, Mr. McCracken.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. To begin, I would like to thank Charlie and WGLT for hosting this forum, and additionally to you, the listeners, for tuning in. Finally, I'd like to thank my opponent, George, for his 15 plus years of service to the community representing us here in District 3. My name is R.J. McCracken, and I want to be the next representative to the McLean County Board from District 3. I declared my candidacy for this position because over the past 17 years living in McLean County, I've come to call it my home. In working with its residents, in my time as events director for Let's Party Rental, I've helped plan the happiest and saddest days for citizens all throughout McLean County. I've met people across the county observing the great diversity in lifestyles and ideals that we possess, and I'm running because I want to contribute my best to improve the lives of those people. I've built my campaign on 3 pillars that summarize who I am and who I will remain when representing the people of District 3. The first is compassion. Within this pillar is my heart, and it's a big one. Within it, you'll find a man who's first concerned with those who are struggling and those who cannot fend for themselves. Children are the future of McLean County, and our elderly are its history. And so with those 2 groups, I will always will be the first concern I always have. My second pillar is transparency. I have nothing to hide, and neither should your government. From live stream meetings to removing the 24-hour mandate for public comment, I want to give citizens the maximum opportunity to be involved in their government. For many in our district, a trip to the present meetings is a bit of a travel experience and not really in the cards. Finally, my final pillar is loyalty, where I establish my priority being the people of McLean County. Purchasing decisions, construction contracts, and essentially any time the board spends money, I'm always going to fight to see that money stays here in McLean County. My name is R.J. McCracken, and I would like to represent you on the McLean County Board.
This is 89.1 FM, WGLT and WGLT.org. I'm Charlie Schlenker. You're listening to an interview with the candidates for District 3 on the McLean County Board. Let's start the question period with a philosophical one. How much of a role should county government play in our lives, and what experiences have shaped your philosophy and approach to government? Mr. McCracken, you start.
The role of the county government in our lives is to essentially act as a moderator between the municipalities and resolve disputes and kind of unite them and bring them together. We work as a county to kind of for businesses. It's to support those who are in need, to provide a safety net for those who genuinely need help, to provide and maintain the infrastructure of our roads and various other infrastructure systems. And it's the same on all levels with every other level of government to me. It's to facilitate and ensure that all of our citizens are given the opportunity and the resources to live a good life in our community. One in which they're free to pursue their fundamental rights of life, liberty, and happiness, as we've all done. So I'll yield the remainder of my time.
All righty. And Derrick, your turn.
Well, personally, I think most of the governing should be from a local standpoint. Currently, there's too much of a spotlight that is thrown on national politics, and it's just downright ugly. We should be leading at the forefront locally and encouraging people to be more involved in their community instead of they're facing their phones and paying attention to the national stage. That being said, we need to step up. It shouldn't be what we can get back from the federal government. We should be telling from a local level our federal government and our state government what we want. And currently, I feel like there's too much of a top-down ruling instead of actual frontline leadership. I would think that from the county level, we need to start there and really start working with our state representatives to make sure that we are taking care of those in the community and being responsible citizens of that community.
The county nursing home has been an issue and one the board may have to confront again at some point. What is an acceptable cost for the county in annual subsidies for the nursing home, and at what point does the county explore other options than delivering that service? And Derrick Evans, I believe you start on this one.
I would, if given the opportunity, I would take everything that I can to move that towards letting it be privatized in some form or shape. A lot of people hear privatized and they think, oh, well, then you're just going to sell it off to a business. And that's not always necessarily the case. As Americans and as citizens, we have this rich history of people stepping up and volunteering to help and doing everything that they can to help those in need. I would want to encourage a non-for-profit take it over, or even if we did end up selling it to a business to take care of it, that we would be able to actually have it serve its purpose the way it was intended. Obviously, budget-wise, we're so concerned about it going over budget and all these different cost measures and stuff like that. I want it to provide the service that it was intended for, but I want it to be as cheap to the taxpayers as possible.
RJ, your turn on the nursing home. Is there an acceptable level of subsidy to deliver that service, or should it be, should the county go in a different direction?
Well, Derrick and I are going to agree a little bit here on this one, and it's because something I would note and something that I would be willing to entertain would be the public-private partnership being a key turnaround if the new management happens to shortfall. I'm very excited at the prospect of being able to ask that new manager questions when the new review comes around. Our previous rating was a 1 out of 5, which by definition is dangerous to its inhabitants. I think everyone's going to agree that that's completely unacceptable. But I don't think that the right questions were being asked before. And if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right answer. So when it comes to turning the reins over to a business, I'm absolutely against that. I would not support that being privatized. The most I'd probably go to is a public-private partnership. But at the end of the day, these are the people that built McLean County. These are the people who have lived here and existed here and earned their right to a death with dignity and to live out the end of their life in a positive place. And for us to turn over the reins of control is something I wouldn't be prepared to do. Even in a public-private partnership, I would be looking for the county board to oversee final decisions, because then at least the people have someone representing them at the end of their days. And so if we relinquish that, I just fear the consequences could be desirable for people who are truly at risk.
A quick follow-up question to you both. One of the reasons the nursing home does not break even is it accepts Medicaid patients, and that is a rare thing in McLean County extended care facilities. If it were to be a public-private partnership or a business run by an external, there is less of a likelihood that the Medicaid patients would continue to be accepted. Where would they go, or where should they go? And let's continue the same order. So, Derrick, you first.
Well, obviously, if we were to make some sort of move to either fully privatize or a private-public partnership, that would be a contingency. They would have to accept those patients and those residents, as well as present a plan to help fund themselves as much as they can without public dollars, to include asking for donations or doing annual donation drives or something like that.
And RJ.
I agree that would have to be a contingency if we were going to go anywhere. But those are the exact people I talk about when I talk about compassion. It's we have to make sure that those vulnerable people aren't on the streets. I realize that that's not going to happen, but the situation they'll be thrust into will be even worse than what we're already in. What I fear, and without assurances that could not take place, there's no way I would move forward.
What issues most matter in District 3, and what do you want to address if elected? And RJ, you were first.
Thank you. If COVID taught us one thing, first and foremost, it's the ability to access the internet is essential. Not just about schools being able to teach children. It's not just about it's about being able to visit a doctor via Zoom appointment, because you have to, because you can't go see that doctor. It's about entrepreneurs in small towns having access and tools to compete in the market. It's about fairness at the end of the day. Right now, the game is pretty unfair for all the folks in District 3 that live outside of the immediate Bloomington, South Side and West Side areas. That's a major issue that I think needs to move forward, and something that's going to kind of set me aside, I think, from our incumbent, because it's going to take money. It's going to take investment on the county's end. And at the end of the day, that's an inevitability that we have to face. And if we're not willing to vote for that, and we're not willing to do that to move the needle forward and start getting internet access to be a more regular thing in the rural districts, then what is worth spending money on? So for me, it's the most pressing thing is getting internet into our rural communities, so that should this ever happen again where we're stuck, having our interviews on Zoom, at least they can participate, and that'll loop into people's access to this.
And Derrick Evans, you have 90 seconds.
When it comes to what my opponent was just speaking about and rural internet, to my knowledge, it's pretty wide open for the market there. I don't have any problem getting high speed, and for those who would have problems, I feel that we should make it an environment that would benefit companies to move and provide those services at competitive prices with each other. As for other ways to represent those individuals, you can't drive around the district without saying or without seeing signs who are not too friendly to our governor. I don't think that our district was very pleased with the way the governor used a heavy-handed approach, that he decided to use on Chicago for the rest of the state. I think that we should have approached it differently, and I would hope that our the constituents would want somebody who's willing to come up with ways to either find a compromise with the state government or would be willing to stand up to them and do what's in the best interest of our citizens and our businesses.
All righty. This is 89.1 FM, WGLT, and WGLT.org. We're conducting an interview with the candidates for McLean County Board, District 3. The nation has begun a national... Did I goof? RJ, did you get a shot at that question?
I did. I went first.
You did that one first. All right. Then you'll get this one second.
No. Yeah, there you go.
All righty. My apologies. The nation has begun a dialogue on race, police, and justice since the death of George Floyd. What should the county do to participate in that dialogue and further racial justice? Derrick Evans, you're first.
That's a big subject and not a lot of time to explain. One of the large pillars of really the Libertarian movement is criminal justice reform. There isn't a lot that we can do with changing the law from the county level. There's a lot of the ways that we can help try our best to see how it's enforced, but I would want to work real closely with our state government to start rolling back some of the unnecessary laws that currently put people who are at an economic disadvantage, which typically ends up being minorities or people of color. And I want to help us present an economic solution to get people out of those situations. Unfortunately, it's just one of those, it's a system that has been broken for so long and been bandaged for so long that there's a lot of things that just need to be really opened up and have an open dialogue on all levels of government to make real serious changes.
All righty. Your turn for the racial dialogue question, RJ McCracken.
It's no joke, isn't it, Derrick? That is a big topic. For me, at the county level, what we could do is really listen. Both sides have something very loud to say, and there are a lot of loud voices right now. And at some point, we're going to have to sit down at a table, and we're going to have to talk about this. We're going to have to think about how we're going to move forward. Are we going to remove the budget from the McLean County Sheriff? No. We had the power. I don't imagine anywhere near that happening. What's going to happen is going to be practical changes that make progress for both parties. I think, a couple examples for me personally are, if every police officer always had a body cam on, then we'd always know what happened. And so it's a step in the right direction for me. I feel like that's something both sides could agree on. But unless we sit down and talk, shouting at each other from across the street is never going to let us meet in the middle. There's always going to be things keeping us apart as long as we don't have this discussion. And so, at the county, I'm here, I'm listening, I hear everybody, and I'm ready to start. I'll be excited if there's anything we get to talk about at the county level in terms of making changes. But I just want to sit down and talk about it.
All righty. Thank you both on that question. The county, city, and town several years ago agreed to raise sales taxes to fund a jail expansion, criminal justice information system, and expanded behavioral health programs. In your view, is that money being well spent, or how do you think any of those elements can be improved, particularly the mental health offerings? And RJ McCracken, you're first.
Sure. And so I'd like to see a little more data, and I'd like to let the course run a little bit longer before I make decisions on whether or not they're doing enough. You know what I mean? For me, mental health is a major issue that affects a lot of Americans, and until I just don't feel like we're there yet in terms of treatment and rehabilitation in our jails and prison systems. And so there's always going to be more work to do, right, on the mental health issue.
All righty. Derrick.
So from that standpoint, a good portion of what leads to mental health conditions going untreated, or even some of the rise or fall of crime typically deals with economic position. Unfortunately, we want to emphasize that the budgetary concerns are being pushed towards mental health first on a lot of it. As for the crime aspect of it and further, we want to make sure that people have ways to not have to resort to crime. Any of that funding that can go into programs, if we're using taxpayer dollars for it, that would go towards retraining or trying to help people or entrepreneurs get the certifications they need to get out of situations that would put them at a point where they would want to resort to crime. I'm more about the prevention piece of it than the treatment of the characteristics afterward.
Okay, thank you. We've about exhausted our available time, so if you two gentlemen would care to offer very brief closing remarks, that would be fine. We'll start with RJ, since he went second at the opening.
Thank you so much for tuning in tonight and listening and being a part of the whole process. Everybody needs to vote. I don't care if you vote for Derrick. I don't care if you vote for George. Vote, please, and make your voice heard so that people are going to respond when large numbers of people come out and vote in McLean County. And so, please get out, vote, and make your voice heard. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, and Derrick Evans.
I agree a lot with RJ on all this. One, with his thanking everybody for being here and tuning in, and two, the aspect of voting. In 2016, about 52% of the actual available voting populace of the United States actually went and made their voice heard. If you don't make your voice heard, you can't make changes. And I want to encourage the competition and the variety of ideas out there, so that we can actually make real positive changes and bring liberty and bring freedom back to the people. Thank you again. Look me up on Facebook, Derrick Evans from McLean County 3, and have a good evening.
All righty. Thanks to Democrat R.J. McCracken and Libertarian Derrick Evans. Incumbent Republican George Wendt indicated his schedule was not predictable enough for him to participate in this interview with the candidates for McLean County Board in District 3. WGLT has asked him to name a time for a separate interview. Hear all our election coverage at WGLT.org or at WGLT's YouTube channel. I'm Charlie Schlenker.